Hello, everybody. Today's first review is going to be The Blair Witch Project, which I gave a 5 out of 10 to. Now, this movie, from what I remember when I was younger, actually watched it, was a lot more scary, and I remember a little bit more happening in the film. Now, maybe it was just because I was a kid, and maybe I am mixing two films together. I'm not really sure. But yeah, this just wasn't as scary as I remember it. Now I know that this film is from 1999, so maybe it just doesn't hold up today as well as it should. But it was, I do believe, the original like found footage film. So at the time, obviously, like them telling the story of like these three film students that go out into the woods to film their project, and then they go missing, and then the film was obviously the footage was found the next year. Yeah, it's going to be rather scary. Of course, this movie came out in 1999, so from the time that the footage was found until the release was 4 years, right? Um, but yeah, it would be rather terrifying, I guess, if you went to see this in theaters at that time, because this was the very first film of its kind. So I can understand, like, I guess it's kind of like a nostalgia thing, really, with this. Like, if you're a huge like found footage horror fan, which I mean, I've seen some found footage films that I've enjoyed, but yeah, I just feel like a lot of them today kind of like ride off the coattails of the first one, and they just continue on. Like Paranormal Activity is supposed to be like found footage too, right? Um, or at least kind of along that line, I would say. Um, what was another one that I've watched that I enjoyed? Um, oh my god, the name of it won't come to me right now. But anyway, there have been some that I have enjoyed that are like this. But so this story, it says in October of 1994, three student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. Um, while shooting a documentary, sorry. A year later, the footage was found. So, like I said, yeah. Um, so they kind of go like around the town of Burkittsville, Maryland, which I guess used to be called, Blair. I do believe is what she said, right? So yeah, the town has obviously changed its name, right? So everyone's kind of telling stories of a man who was murdering kids who lived in the mountains. Yeah, and everyone has like their own version of what kind of happened, like in a certain time period, I suppose. Now, of course, everybody was saying it was like witchcraft and some sort of witch, but then when they found a real killer, I guess everybody kind of like debunked that theory, right? Like, I guess he was like kidnapping and murdering, right? So kind of crazy. Now, one man tells of a woman, Mary Brown, who was considered crazy, possibly considered like to be the witch herself. Now, when they go to her, she tells of her encounter with the Blair Witch. Now, she said it was like some sort of, she could tell it was a woman. Now, it stood there and just kind of stared at her. It was like a tall figure, so on and so forth. Like, she goes on about like her experience with this Blair Witch creature or character. Now, when they finally do make it to the forest, uh, two men fishing talk about a girl, Robin Weaver, who went missing in the 1800s and then 3 days later returned to her mother's porch. Now, I'm not really sure whether they were trying to say that Robin Weaver was like the witch, or whether Robin Weaver maybe encountered the witch and then was returned. Like, yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what they were trying to say there, but one of the guys even says that he saw like smoke coming out of the forest at one point, or like a mist sort of thing, like maybe a fog type deal. And he says that the forest has been haunted for many years. Now, I think at the end of the movie, they do run into like the killer's house, right? Like, I believe that's basically what they're trying to show at the very end of the movie. Um, Now, where was I? Sorry. So, the students the student filmmakers make it to their first stop, Coffin Rock. Now, because this was a found footage film, the cast just goes by their own names. So we had Heather Donahue, Michael Williams, and Joshua Leonard. Yeah, so again, it was supposed to be like a legitimate film, right? Now, obviously, we know years down the road that this was fake. Like, it was not real at all. These guys are still alive, as far as I know, unless they've passed away since this film. But yeah, as far as I know, they're all still alive. Um, so eventually they get to the place I believe that Mary Brown was talking about, with like all of the piled up rocks and like just the weird, yeah, just it was just very weird to begin with. Um, so yeah, I believe that they run into like the place that she was talking about with the pile of rocks, where like she had her encounter with what she calls the Blair Witch. Um, so yeah, they run into that place. Of course, they're not really seeing anything at that point, right? Like, and of course, Heather is kind of like adamant about them never being lost, and of course, Mike and Josh are trying to like fight her constantly on like, can you give us the map? Like, where are we, sort of thing, each day. And it seems like as the days pass, they just continue to go deeper and deeper into the woods, like almost like they're going in circles, right? Now that it was supposed to be like a quick project, right? Like they were supposed to just go in, film a bit of the forest, and then leave. Now that's obviously not what happens. Things just kind of go definitely not according to plan, and I think they probably shouldn't have even maybe crossed the river, or they should have maybe marked their trail as they were going so that they knew exactly how to get back, because Heather is adamant when they're leaving that this is the quickest way to get back to the car, and she found the quickest way to get in to try to get to the cemetery. But I don't think they ever make it to the cemetery where she was trying to go, right? Like they just end up turning back after a couple of days, and then they end up getting lost. And then obviously things get stranger as they get deeper into the forest, and it seems like they're going in circles. They end up finding this one spot with a whole bunch of weird like symbols, and I don't know, like almost like moss making like people figures in the trees. Yeah, like there was a bunch of weird stuff that was happening in this movie to make it seem as real as possible, for sure. um oh my god, okay. um so yeah, at that point, like I said, they decide to leave, but they appear to be lost. Eventually, they kind of start to lose it a little bit, and eventually, at one point, Michael admits to actually kicking the map into the creek, uh, after, after they had like this huge argument about it, and Jesse was like, or sorry, and Josh was like, "Oh my god, like you got to be kidding me! Like we needed that map, like that was our way out of here." And of course, Mike tries to like say, no, the map was useless. Like, remember yesterday, like Heather didn't want to agree that she didn't know where she was going, so I just got rid of the map, and that's when things go completely haywire and they get absolutely lost. And of course, they all start to kind of like break down because they're running out of food, they're running out of water. Um, yeah, they just can't kind of keep going in the same direction. Now they travel south to one day, which ends up leading them back to the log they crossed again. And yeah, you can kind of see like just the mental breakdown of all three people. And I think that probably played more of a factor on them than anything, really. Like I feel like they just kind of slowly started to lose it as they realized they were actually lost, right? I think that was more what was happening to them than any, real like entity being out in the forest or anything, right? Um, so they do actually hear noises outside of their tent. Um, like, um, where was I? So they decided to leave the forest. They had heard noises outside of their tent the night before. Heather said, uh, and Heather said it's freezing. So now I do know, like, I've personally had like my own kind of like ghost encounters. Like I'm one that believes in that stuff. So yeah, like I've noticed that, yeah, when like an entity or something is close, the air can be chilled and frozen, right? So yeah, like it's almost like a weird, like it can be warm out, but it feels frozen wherever this like creature or entity could possibly be. So maybe there was some truth to the Blair Witch. I don't really know, but yeah, it kind of seemed like there might have been in this movie. Like that's what they were kind of trying to get around. But it's hard to tell because yeah, like I think their mind was playing tricks on them by at some point, or maybe maybe there was still somebody out in the woods with them. I don't really know. Like yeah, because at one eventually Joshua goes missing. So and then they can hear him in the night, like calling out for help. And then eventually they end up in the house, right? Where I think the one guy was talking about, like that, where the killer lived, right? So yeah, it was very weird that that's where they ended up. So I'm not really sure whether there was any Blair Witch or whether there was something else going on in that forest. But yeah, so they do. So they actually they end up finding piles of rocks outside of their tent the one morning when they wake up. Um, and I think that was the night after they had heard noises, right? Um, yeah, yeah, that was right. The night they hear noises, and then they wake up and they find the piles of rocks outside of their tent. Um, so yeah, this is when Heather has lost the map, but eventually Mike admits to kicking the map in the creek, like I had said, arguing that the map was useless. The students find strange symbols hanging from the trees, so I think I touched on that a little bit already. Heather finally does admit to being lost, and that night they hear the noises, but much closer. I think I can't remember if that was the night where they end up sprinting from the tent, and she claims to like see something in the forest. But of course, this was one of those things where they should have shown something. Like it just showed them like running a lot, and they never really showed what they were seeing. Like it was so dark in so many of the scenes that it was like, okay, well, this is kind of creepy, but also like they would shine the light around and there was like nothing there. So it was almost like, yeah, again, I think it was more like something was messing with their heads just being lost in the forest for so long, right? Um, Again, there could have been some truth to something out there with them. I'm not sure what it would have been, but yeah, like I feel like just they were so so lost and so weary and just so like broken down after like being out there for so long that eventually they just kind of lost it. Uh, so yeah, Heather finally admits to being lost. Yeah, that was the night that something was right outside their tent and they end up running away. Now, when they come back, there's some sort of like slime on Joshua's things. Um, and like their things were all like thrown around. The tent seemed to be like totally taken down. So there was something or somebody there with them. Like there had to have been. Now I'm not sure who would have been following them and messing with them potentially, but yeah, there was definitely something going on, right? Or at least it seemed that way. Again, I'm not really sure. Like it almost seemed like yeah, this movie was definitely psychological in nature. So yeah, I think like as their heads were getting messed with, it was kind of showing like yeah, like definitely should have probably kept the map. That's the one thing for sure. So eventually they do find out that they seem to be going in circles. I think south was the first way they traveled, so they said maybe east would be next. Um, so when Heather and Mike wake up that morning, Josh is missing. So now they're trying to search for not only a way out, but also Josh at the same time. Um, Now, I think it was a couple nights later, like maybe after they had heard Josh calling for help, um, that she ends up opening like the bundle of sticks that was left outside their tent the one morning and finds blood and what appears to be human hair. So something or somebody has probably killed Josh at this point. That's at least what we're thinking. Now, they do hear him again, and that's what ends up leading them to this house. So, just before that, though, Heather does blame herself for everything that's happened at this point, and she records like one last final message saying they're probably going to die out in the woods, and obviously, I think she's kind of like come to terms with the fact that that could potentially happen, right? Uh, So yeah, once again, after that, after Heather admits that it's her fault, they do hear the noises outside the tent again of Josh calling to help, for help. They follow it, which leads them to the house. So I believe this is the house of the killer that the one guy was talking about at the beginning of the movie. And they search the whole house. They can't find him. They think he's upstairs. They think he's downstairs. Now, Heather and Mike get separated in the house, and she's like crying for help from him. And there's like handprints all over the walls and stuff, and like all of the weird symbols that they saw in the forest earlier. Just a whole mess of stuff, right? And then she goes into the basement where Mike was, and he's just kind of standing in the corner. And then she gets attacked, and the camera just falls, and that's where the movie ends. So again, I feel like there was somebody out in the forest with them that was following them and was trying to scare them, making it think that this was this Blair Witch creature, and was probably keeping them going in circles, right? Like, obviously they weren't being quiet in the day, so it would be very easy to track them and then mess with them at night, right? Like, yeah. Now, I'm not sure exactly how Josh went missing. Did he leave the tent in the night and then, like, whoever was out there with him ended up just taking him by himself? Because it was impossible to see without any light, right? Like, it was pitch black. So whoever was out there obviously was sitting there for a while to get their eyes adjusted to the dark, and then would come out and attack them, right? Like, just crazy to think that, there was actually some sort of killer out there still, that was maybe like trying to copycat what had happened before. Like, there's a lot of ways this could go, right? Like, you could speculate pretty much anything, right? So yeah, that was the end of the movie. Heather getting attacked and Mike just kind of standing in the corner. Now, I'm not really sure whether he had seen something and he was trying to like hide away from it. Because I think at one point it even showed like his camera getting smacked out of his hand too, right? So yeah, again, I'm not sure. Like, maybe he saw something and was just absolutely horrified by what he had seen and was trying to hide from it himself, and then Heather comes down and gets attacked by the same thing. There's a whole bunch of different ways you could portray this ending, right? But anyhow, yeah, 5 out of 10 for this film for me. I just don't. It just wasn't as scary as I remember it, I guess. But anyhow, funny story though. When I first started watching this, I didn't realize I had actually clicked on the wrong film called The Blair Rabbit Project, and I was watching this, like all of these, like opening credits were coming in, like talking about like all these people going missing, and all of this different footage being found, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, is this a spoof movie? Like, I don't remember it opening this way. And then I was like, oh my god, I hit like B on my controller, and I was like, oh my god, this isn't even the right movie. So yeah, I had a little bit of a laugh about that, and then went into the correct movie and watched it, because I was like, oh my god, this isn't even what I wanted. But I might have to add that the Blair Rabbit Project to my list of movies, just to see what kind of like comedy they get into with that one. Because yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Monty Python with that opening for the other film. So yeah, but anyway, I guess I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.